So last time on Unsealed, we opened up two football games for the PlayStation 2. I also started a three-part miniseries breaking down the rivalry between two of the most important football franchises in video game history, John Madden Football and NFL 2K. The games we opened up, just as a refresher, were Madden 2003, that's Marshall Faulk right there on the cover, and NFL 2K3 with Brian Urlacher on the cover. 2003 sports year was important for both companies. For EA Sports, it marked a departure in the booth from Pat Summerall moving over to Al Michaels, who was an accomplished announcer in the booth in real life, and also had some video game experience calling plays for series like Hardball and Brett Hull Hockey. It was also notable that there was a minicamp mode that was added that year, and there was a new Create a Playbook feature, as well as some improvements to the franchise mode. So that was Madden 2003 in a nutshell. As far as NFL 2K3 goes, the ESPN broadcast presentation was introduced for the first time in this game. It was an important agreement that Sega Sports had signed with ESPN, not only adding ESPN broadcast packages, but also personalities from the Bristol, Connecticut mega network. So in terms of presentation, it was really hard to beat because these were broadcast graphics that you were used to seeing on TV. And even though the graphics may have suffered here and there, for the average passerby who was just watching a game of NFL 2K3, you could mistake it for an ESPN telecast, and that was pretty neat. There was also online play here as well, and there were some improvements made to the franchise mode along with some other features. The 2003 sports year for Sega Sports was also the first one where the Dreamcast wasn't included in development. As a matter of fact, the Dreamcast didn't even matter anymore at that point. It was all about the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and to a lesser extent, the GameCube. So, moving on from the 2003 sports year, let's talk about the 2004 sports year because that one was also important. And I have copies of both 2K and Madden to show you today. First of all, here is Madden 2004, and yes, that is Mike Vick on the cover sporting his number 7 for the Atlanta Falcons. Let's talk about some of the features in this game because a couple of them are exceptionally notable. First of all, it is the introduction of the new Playmaker control, and I want to read to you what this is and then explain to you a little bit about why it's important. Revolutionary new feature allowing players to control players off the ball. You can change receiver routes pre-snap and mid-play, also direct blocking downfield during a run, and more. So for the first time, players are now being given access to make changes at the line, redirecting receivers, redirecting blocking, playing more of an active role in the nuts and bolts instead of just what's going on after the ball is snapped. So I thought that was pretty impressive. EA Sports Online was improved. The biggest improvement really was that fair play settings were added so that people who were cheating or who were quitting before finishing games would be penalized, at least in terms of standings. The owner mode was introduced for the first time in this year, so you could hire staff, you could set ticket and concession prices, you could build a stadium with luxury boxes, scoreboards, and more, and you can keep score by tracking your team's revenue and fan support. So this was pretty neat because before then, you were always operating in the shoes of a general manager or as a coach or, of course, as a player. Now, as an owner, you were trying to make as much money as possible, trying to manage budgets and trying to keep fans happy. There's a lot of balls to juggle there, and it was a pretty neat mode to add. Integrated play calling presentation. You can speed up the pace of the game without missing any of the on-field action. I wasn't a big fan of this, where you could call plays and basically the replay would be condensed, so you really couldn't see a lot of what was going on. It ran fine, but you couldn't notice a lot of detail. Most realistic playbooks. And my favorite addition, and something that a lot of people tend to forget about or really didn't use, something called the EA Sports Bio feature. What the EA Sports Bio feature did is it built a segment on your memory card that you could access whenever you played any EA Sports game from the 2004 sports year. The more 2004 sports games from EA that you played, the more rewards within the games that you could unlock. There was also a miniature achievement system as well, so accomplishing certain tasks and feats within games could unlock special items. I always thought that was neat. It would be even easier to pull off now with hard drives inside of systems, but with online play, it's much easier to track who's playing what game and loyalty and such that way. Madden Ultimate Team which is something I'm not the hugest fan of, but I do know what it is. They do reward loyalty each and every year. So the more games in the past that you've played, the cooler rewards you get. And that ID is kind of built on the EA Sports Bio edition. I'm a fan of the game. Again, Madden is more about the simulation aspect, which is certainly fine with me. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to open this first, and then we'll get to our second game. So this I got from eBay, and it is brand new. Just to show you, we do have the security label at the top, so we know that it is legit. So we'll go ahead and we'll open this up, and I'm going to try and do this better so that you can see everything on camera. I tend to not do a very good job with that sometimes. So we're going to slide that off just like that, and that off just like that. This means I have to keep this take now. I can't make any more mistakes. It took me about 15 takes to get to this point, so now I got to roll with it. We'll take the security label off, and we'll make sure that we don't drop the disc or anything this time. There's the security label. We'll put that off to the side. Open this up. And yep. So interestingly enough, and it's a minor difference, but you have Mike Vick in his white jersey, and then on the disc, he's wearing his dark jersey. Not a big deal, but it is what it is. We take the manual or the manual out. The manual is pretty thick. The manual is more than 40 pages in length. There is no color in here. The screens are in black and white. It's always good to read just to understand all of the intricacies here because there are a ton. Not only talking about online play, but offline play as well. So it's pretty neat. I definitely recommend checking out the manual or any kind of manual when you do get it because we don't have them anymore. So again, with Madden 2004, I think the biggest addition really was the owner mode, to be honest. Owner mode giving players just another role to play. In trying to make a successful team in all aspects, not just on the field, but also off the field. And I thought that was pretty neat. Unfortunately, the owner mode has kind of fallen by the wayside in recent years, but I thought that was a pretty big addition. Al Michaels was back in the booth with John Madden for yet another year. The presentation for the most part remained unchanged other than that replay option or that replay feature, and I put feature in quotes, where they would show you the replay between the two play calling windows. And again, I was not a big fan of that. I thought that this particular year, the presentation took a step backwards. Michaels was fine in the booth, a little bit repetitive, John Madden doing what John Madden does, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, that was Madden 2004, but what was 2K going to do? Is it going to be NFL 2K4? Well, not exactly. Instead, we get a game called ESPN NFL Football, and you can see 2K4 down in the lower corner right there. So 2K wasn't the big feature. What it was ESPN was more prominently featured on the front, and yes, that's Warren Sapp freaking you out there with his death stare on the front cover. On the back cover, it says you own SAP, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the features here. First-person football makes its debut in this year. First-person football, for some people, is a really cool idea. For others, they thought it was pretty silly. It's a revolutionary first-person mode that gives you the power to play NFL football through the eyes of any player on the field. So you want to play as an offensive lineman and see what it looks like to block a defensive lineman, that's fine. You want to play the quarterback and see if you can read progressions and read routes, that's great too. If you want to play as a defender and keep your eyes on the quarterback the whole time, you can do that. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I don't play this mode too often, but I thought it was pretty novel at least. ESPN presentation is a big deal here. ESPN veteran Chris Berman, ESPN pregame analysis, ESPN halftime show, ESPN overlays, and action replays. It's the real deal. And yes, you got the special Chris Berman halftime show here where he would narrate the whole thing, and he would also do post-game analysis as well. It was to have Berman as part of the presentation because Berman was the face of ESPN still at the time, was notable. Whenever you're talking about ESPN football, NFL countdown, Berman was front and center, so having him as part of the package was a big deal. But they didn't put him on the field. It wasn't like ESPN NFL Primetime 2002 from Konami. This was putting Berman where he was most comfortable, which was in the studio. Meanwhile, keeping the same two guys that had been doing 2K commentary since the beginning. They had done such a good job beforehand, it made no sense to swap them out in favor of ESPN personalities. I applaud that decision. Groundbreaking gameplay with charged moves, gang tackles, sideline grabs, double team blocks, a new motion system, no huddle offense, challenge play feature, and more. And the other big feature that was added in this particular year was something called the crib. And I thought the crib was a really cool idea. And just to refresh you, if you don't know what it is, you play to unlock trophies, collectibles, mini games, music, and more. Then you customize the crib, complete with a living room, game room, home theater, and trophy case. Basically, what you would do here, kind of like what you did with Madden cards and earlier versions of Madden, is you would accomplish certain feats within the game, almost like an achievement system. But you would earn coins and tokens for this, and you could use those to buy things for your crib and decorate it the way you want. You want to buy a new couch, you want to buy a new TV, you want to buy some ESPN videos, you want to buy some games to play like air hockey or darts or a trivia game. You can do that all in your crib. So it was the place that you could hang out in between games and improve it the way that you wanted to. And I thought that that was a really, really cool feature. And yes, they did maintain it for the next year, but we'll get into that with the last part of this series. So let's go ahead and let's get this open. Just like Madden 2004, this also has a security label on top, so we know this is legit. We'll go ahead and we're going to get this open. I'm very happy to open this because my copy of ESPN NFL Football was not the greatest. It was missing a manual, and it's just nice to be able to open this up. So that's what we're doing right now. We're taking the wrapping off of there just like that. Put that down there. We will remove the security label, and then we'll take a look at what's inside. Interestingly, the NFL 2K3 manual was in color. I don't remember if this one was or not. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at that right now. So we'll open this up, and it is the same scary look both for the manual and for the disc. There you go. We're going to take a look at the manual as we always do. The manual is not very big here. The manual, unlike NFL 2K3, which was pretty significant, about 50 pages in length, is only about 16 pages or 17 pages here. There is some ESPN advertising, which you can see there, and also a list of all of the Sunday Night Football games for the upcoming season. Some of these matchups, any ones that were kind of Patriots at Jets, of course, that was December 20th. 49ers and Seahawks, Bears versus Vikings. I loved ESPN Sunday Night Football at the time before they went to Monday Night Football. I thought that the broadcasts were great. I thought that they were interesting. I loved some of the things that they did with camera work, so that was pretty impressive. This manual is not in color anymore. It is in black and white, which is a little bit of a step down, but that's nitpicking really. And yeah, I mean, there's a section here, a very brief section on first-person football, talking about how to play, talking about the crib here. The game modes, franchise, season, tournament, situation, online. There's also 3 methods of practice as well. I loved NFL 2K4, ESPN NFL Football. I didn't think that I could love a game more than this, honestly. I thought it had everything, the way that I play football games or sports games, it had everything that I wanted. The presentation was great. Having Chris Berman gave it that air of authenticity in terms of a television-style broadcast that I had always been looking for. The halftime shows felt like something you would watch on ESPN. The gameplay was as good as it had ever been. Easy enough to play. It felt a little less or a little more forgiving than Madden did, which was good for players like me who weren't students of the Madden game and could pick it up and play it just a little bit easier. And of course, the addition of the crib, I mean, that was pretty addictive. Accomplishing feats within games to try and earn those tokens and build the crib the way that you wanted to and unlock everything was certainly addictive, and I thought was pretty cool as well. So the 2004 sports year moved these games further. Each of the 2 games had its own set of improvements. So it was not easy enough just to say, well, it's the same game every year, because honestly, it wasn't in this case. There were significant improvements made from both sides to make both games worth owning yet again that year. Both games did cost $50, however, so you wound up paying $100 if you wanted the full NFL experience, and that's not including a game like NFL Game Day 2004. if that was something that you were interested in owning. So, 2 years in the books. The 2003 and 2004 sports years are done, which means we just have one left. It is the granddaddy of them all, the 2005 sports year. And I'm really looking forward to that because I have an extra special surprise for that episode, and that will be coming very soon. As always, feel free to leave comments talking about your NFL 2K or Madden experiences. Did you play either of these games? Do you have a preference for either one? You think I'm going over the top on presentation? Please let me know what you're thinking of these episodes in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Don't hesitate to go ahead and give this thing a thumbs up if you like it, and to share it around as well. And I don't usually ask this, but if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. The channel doesn't update every day, but when you hit the subscribe button, it does let you know when I do upload new videos. Thanks again, as always, for watching. I really do appreciate it. And until the next time, everybody, see you later.